everybody. I was back rocking and jamming. This guy over here, he'll be back in a second. Just wave real fast, John. Say hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, buddy. He'll be back in a minute. All right, so we're going to have a good time today. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Matt Chat Live. Hashtag, however you do that. I don't know how you do that thing, but hashtag, how you do that with one hand? I don't know how you do that. I don't know. John doesn't either. He's off camera. He doesn't know either. Anyway, y'all, it's a nice day today. It's hot. I don't know about you, but this day to me, just went on by. That's a crazy day today. I was getting ready to do a big old promo for my friend John here, the corporate action hero, and pulled up his video. It wasn't there. It was gone, dead. And John was such a cool dude. He said that, actually, I woke him up. He was eating some popcorn and watching a movie. I forget what he's watching, Gone with the Wind or something like that today. And he said he'd be willing to come on the show again today, which was pretty amazing. So we're going to have a good time with him. He brought a couple of whips, some chains. Yeah, it's that kind of a show. Don't forget, we have Let's Get Naked coming up at 7 o'clock. Wait till you see John. Oh, yeah. It's going to be fantastic. So anyway, you'll find out more later. All right, so we got a great time today. Tonight at 7 o'clock for real on Let's Get Naked on Clubhouse. We're going to be talking about when the walls come crumbling down. I know nobody out there has ever experienced something like that, but if you have, it can be really annoying, right? It can be a pain in the butt to see that sometimes things can start crumbling. What do you do? Sometimes people, I put up a poll, like, are you a crack inspector? You're like, you see the crack, you wait for little cracks and crevices, you see them coming, you try to fix and repair them so you don't have these problems. So you're that kind of a person, or are you the kind of person like when you see it crumble, you're like, you freak out and you don't know what to do and you're trying to fix everything at one time. You're getting nothing done. That just keeps falling down more and more. You're trying to find somebody to help. Are you that kind of a person? Or are you the kind of person that says, you know what, I'm going to shore up the walls. I'm going to put some braces here, put some braces here, get this all squared away, and I'll start building it back, right? Maybe the kind of person that says, forget this, I'm done, let it fall down, as I'm going to go someplace else. I'm tired of this, and find something else to do. There's all kinds of things we've been through when walls come crumbling down. And I know for a fact that it's not a day at the park. It is definitely a horrific time. For those of us that have gone through in businesses and lost businesses in the past, specifically some of us that have gone through COVID, maybe you've lost your brick and mortar, you've lost some of your business online, and you've just been struggling to figure out what to do and not knowing where to go next. We've got a show for you tonight, so I hope you'll enjoy that. What's even cooler is in a little bit, my friend John will come on here, and he'll have some things to share with you about hope and opportunities, and be able to find some places where it looked like things were over and done with, and then something happens, and it changes everything. That happened for John. Man jumped off roofs. Yeah, he did. He had a big accident one day, so we'll talk about that coming up in just a moment. So before we do that, I want to pull up here. I've got to see where my little ad's at right here. All right, so my friend Chris Webb, who's a moderator with us at Let's Get Naked here at Clubhouse tonight. He has a company called MF Consulting out there on the West Coast in Canada, right above Seattle, Washington area. And he's a fantastic guy. It's a great company. Check this out, MF Consulting. So to create next level profitable growth, it's not exactly something you can do by, some folks do it by themselves, but when you start getting to a certain level, you need some help. And that's exactly what Chris and his team can do for you at their agency. Just got to reach out to them. What's really cool is that even if you might think you're not necessarily ready for a certain type of coaching or consulting, but you need to take some other bite-sized steps to get to that place, he has a complete academy at his website. And I don't know how many things are there, 1,000 maybe, different videos and off of topics and subjects and types of careers and businesses that you can choose from, and find places and ways that you can improve yourself so that you can be better at what you do. So the end result is to achieve the goal you're trying to achieve, right? So check him out, mfconsultingpc.com, and you tell him that Matt said hello to you and to him, and maybe he'll give you, like, I don't know, a donut, maybe a donut, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I like donuts. So I also like this guy, John. This guy, John, right here. I think I've got this little thing I made today. Where's it at? It's right here, Matt. Click this. Check it out. There he is, right? Bam, pow, zap, boom, right? He is an amazing dude. He's been through so much. One of the things I love a lot, we'll talk a little bit about today, is that bottom right-hand corner side is where it says American Cancer Society. And a lot of you know that I've been battling cancer for the past 10 years. That's been a companion I haven't been wanting to hang around with anymore. By the way, I go tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be at Duke all day. If you thought some of you might want to pray for me, I'd appreciate it. I got to go to get my brain checked out. They make sure it's still there once in a while. I've asked for upgrades every time. They deny me. I just don't get it. I try my best, but they won't let me have it. And they're just going to check to make sure there's no cancer there and everything looks honky-dory. So I'm expecting good news tomorrow. But I'll tell you, honestly, I'll just be transparent with you that I get a little nervous every time I go. I do. It's been a long, long battle. And the last thing I want to do is go there and find out, they say, hey, by the way, you're going to die in a week. That'd be, wow, that's awesome. So I've got a couple ideas what I do during that week, though. I just thought about that. I got a couple of things I wouldn't mind doing. Squirrel. So this guy I'm getting ready to bring up to you has done some amazing things. He's been around incredible people. He's been all around the world. I super, super love that during a lot of the wartime here, when we've been over in the big old sandbox, he took some time to go over there and work with the troops and entertain troops and share some of the things that he has and abilities that he has to do to help entertain them, take their minds off of the junk that we were dealing with when we were there. And I really appreciate that about him. I love the USO. I've got some great friends here in Fayetteville that work at the USO, and love that he does that, especially the American Cancer Society as well. So John's a great guy. He'll tell you all about this stuff. I know that at one point he was younger. I think it was 22, right, John? Was it 22 when you got injured? Yeah. So he sees me. I see him, but you don't see him. He got injured at 22 years old. He'll tell you all about that too. He's got this awesome bio on his website, and I liked reading it. I did. I read it all things. Matter of fact, I've got it right here. I could read it off to y'all because it's really cool. So here it is. I'm going to put on my official radio voice. I've been told I do have a face for radio, so we'll go ahead and say that right now. I'd like to introduce our speaker, John Davis. He's lived a life of an action hero. He's been a professional fight director, that's capital F, capital D, and a stuntman for stage and screen. An artistic director, capital A, capital D, of 3 regional theme parks. A sword fighting comedian and a motivational speaker, author, and coach, all at one time. He's been featured on The Today Show, The Tomorrow Show, and The Future Show, and The Discovery Channel. Oh, yeah. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. The one, the only, the corporate action hero. There he is. Super John.
I am here.
You just wait.
I'm going to bring it, buddy. Let's do it.
Bringing it all the way from Ohio. Yeah. I thought I said everybody's from Ohio. I thought, who lives in Ohio? Evidently John does. He takes care. He sweeps it up every once in a while. Hello.
I live in the rubber city, so my town's known for tires.
He's bouncing around over there, Akron, Canton, Ohio area, that whole place. I've been around those areas. Well, thanks so much for coming to the show live today. Lord knows we did this once before, so we should be pretty warmed up for this one.
But practice makes perfect.
It does. This is going to be the perfect show.
That's right.
Exactly. It is. Right. Thanks for your grace, John. You've been able to do so many really cool and incredible things over your life, and you still got more to go, which is awesome. COVID was an interesting period of time, and you got to do some things during COVID as well. But you're ramping up for some even greater things ahead, and you do some really, really cool. If you've got a corporate team, or you want to do corporate events, and you want to be able to pull in leadership and training and community, all that stuff together. Besides some guy that's up there going, Bueller, right? Speakers. I mean, John's got whips and chains and all kinds of stuff. So it's pretty fun. I think you'd probably enjoy it, especially after COVID. It'd be a good stress reliever to have somebody like John to come to your place. You might want to talk to him about it. So, John, tell us a little bit about some of that experience in your life and your backstory and how you got to where you're at today.
Well, like you said, when I was 22 years old, I was well on the way to becoming a stunt man and a fight director. And I was on my way to get my black belt in Taekwondo. I was like working out. I was strong. I had long Fabio hair as opposed to
Woo!
instead of this Telly Savalas stuff I got going on now. And I was really strong and really doing well. And a friend asked me to help him unload his van that was filled with boxes of clay. He was a professional potter. And I climbed up in the van. I picked up the first box, and I twisted to set that box outside of the van, and my spine broke in two.
Gosh,
and I collapsed and was paralyzed. They took me to the
First
doctor.
box.
First box. All that work, all those years, flipping, jumping off buildings, doing all that crap. One little box.
Done.
Little box.
Ah.
So they hauled me to the hospital. Doctor tells me I have a condition known as spina bifida occulta, which I promptly said Gesundheit to. I had no clue what that meant. Basically, 3 of my vertebrae never formed properly at birth, and with the extra 80 pounds and the twisting action I did, I literally disconnected the top half of my spine from the lower half of my spine and pinched off my spinal column. He told me that day, he said, we're not sure whether you're ever going to walk, and even if you do, you're never going to have a physical career. You're just never going to have that ability because your back can't handle the stresses that you'd have to put it through.
Wow.
And a buddy of mine, it's really kind of funny. When you look back at it, it looked like a cruel joke at the time, but he gave me a book called The Tao of Jeet Kune Do by Bruce Lee. So he gave the martial artist who was just told he'd never do martial arts again a book by the greatest martial artist in the world about martial arts. Right?
Yeah.
But that was the greatest thing that could have happened to me at that moment because Bruce actually wrote that book when he was in traction and couldn't do martial arts. And on top of it, there's a whole the book is more about his philosophies of martial arts. So there's a very big concepts in there about staying very present in your moment, in the I am moment, and the concept of also mental flexibility, being like water. And I was able to take those 2 principles and build out a method that I use now called the 5 Fs. But I was able to disregard the beliefs of doctors and friends and family and take my own belief and create something better. And so I went on to do over 4,000 live comedy sword fighting stunt shows all over the world, including the front lines of Iraq and Afghanistan, just by simply leveraging that present moment and staying very mentally flexible.
Over 4,000.
4,000. Yeah.
That's a couple shows.
That's 1 or 2. Yeah, we were doing sometimes 4 and 5 a day, depending on where we were performing. But yeah, I did over 4,000. I did over 100 on the front lines of Iraq and Afghanistan. And they took us all the way out to at one point we were at a place called Korean Village, which was a couple miles from the Syrian border in Iraq. So we were all out as far as they would send us.
Yeah. So is there just pausing there since I was Desert Storm and served during the Gulf War, and that's back in 1990 and 91. So you were there a little bit after me. I think you were there 2005, right? Something around there.
Yeah. Well, we went over. We started going over in 2001. Our first tour was Europe, and then we did Europe again, and then we went all the way out to Iraq and Afghanistan
with the USO, right?
USO, yeah. Armed Forces Entertainment is run by the USO, so technically we were Armed Forces Entertainment.
So was there any kind of a special moment that you could I know we didn't even talk about this. I'm just thinking, was there a moment during that time while you were out there that really touched your heart, or a moment where you felt like somebody else's heart was touched?
I can't tell you how many times. I mean, it was that profound. I had a soldier come up to me in Ramadi, Iraq, after a performance. Now, when I went over, it was me and my comedy partner, and then we would usually take 2 other guys with us, or 1 other guy with us, so we could fill out a 2-hour show because we wanted to bring something really valuable.
Yeah.
We finished our show in Ramadi. The soldier walked up to me and says, "Mr. Davis, thank you for coming. I was in a firefight this morning, and this afternoon for 2 hours, I was able to forget that." And that's huge. But even bigger than that, and this is a story that I think everyone should hear. When I was in Bagram, Afghanistan, we had a day where we were not going to be performing, but we were over there to do good in the world. So we were like, well, if we're not performing today, what can we do to be of service today? And then we found out there was a hospital on base. I said, well, let's go over to the hospital and entertain people in the hospital. And they're driving us over there, and they're like, well, there's no soldiers in this hospital. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, yeah, no, the hospital's filled with Afghan children who were wandered in the minefields. And so we went into this room, and there were these children that were just, some of them were burned from head to toe. Some of them were like bandaged all over. And I love to share this story because it's about one of the most caring and loving individuals I know, a man named Todd Key. He's now a children's book author, but he was one of the comedians who was on the tour. And he looks over at this little girl sitting there in the chair, and she's got one arm fully bandaged and one hand with this little wrist wrapping. And she's sitting there in the chair, and he gives her what I call the Santa twinkle. He gives her the look, and then goes over and digs into his bag of tricks, and he pulls out a giant ball, and he throws it up in the air, and he catches it on his finger. He's spinning it on his finger, and she's like just amazed by it. And he looks at her, and he points at her one hand, and he puts his finger up. And so she starts to bring her hand out. He grabs her finger and sets it up, throws it up again, sets the ball on her finger. Now the ball's spinning on her finger. And she's like blown away, right? Now she's getting excited. So then he reaches into his bag of tricks. He pulls out a short piece of rope, and he starts swinging the rope back and forth. And finally he throws the rope up in the air and ties a knot in midair. And she's blown away, freaking out.
Betcha.
Right? So he pulls out another rope and hands it to her. And she's trying to do it. And she can't get it. So he goes behind her, and he takes her hand, and he shows her how to do it. Now she's tying ropes in the air, right? So we finished our rounds, did the whole thing, and we're walking out of the hospital. A doctor walks up to us and says, "Hey, guys, I just want you to be fully aware of the impact you have doing this work." He said, that girl over here has been with us for 6 weeks. The only time we can get her blood pressure is when she's asleep, because she doesn't let anybody touch her arms. And you just not only touched her arms and did that work with her, but we just got her blood pressure for the first time just because you came here. That right there is the story that I think is the most impactful of the trip, because I really feel that just Todd's caring and motion towards taking it to that place was amazing. You still there, Matt? If he's not, I'm going to keep going just in case. Okay. So the other thing about Afghan, I lost you, Matt. I can't hear you at all, so I'm going to keep talking.
No, I'm still here. I just was trying to get rid of me so you could show this picture better.
All right.
Is that's your buddy right there in the picture?
Yes, the one in the middle right there is Todd Key. And the guy to his left, that's another amazing individual. That's Dan Thurman. He's one of the big name keynote speakers around the world. And I've met Dan back when he was 19. We've been friends ever since. He actually used to be president of the National Speakers Association last year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But yeah, Todd, that guy in the middle, Todd Key, he's an incredible individual. And the work that he did there, that moment of connecting with that child, he really made an impact on that kid's life and on the soldiers' lives too, because they saw how the kindness of these weird American guys can make a difference in the world. And for us, it was important because those kids saw that all Americans weren't wearing uniforms.
Yeah, that's right. So it wasn't that everybody's in green and got a gun, right?
Right. We wanted them to see goofy guys doing fun stuff with them as opposed to at them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Did that change anything in your thought processes moving forward with some of the things you say or do in front of people? Did you take in some of those things? And
so profound. I mean, I was already a student of many spiritual contexts, but when I saw it in action, I saw how what you sow, you do reap.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. I remember when I, during all my travels in my life, I remember I was in Egypt. I went to Egypt for a month. And I traveled all over Egypt. And everywhere I went, I was treated just tremendously well. But I treated everybody tremendously well. I treated everybody with respect and love. And then I ended up bumping into another American, and he says to me, "Have you been having problems since you've been here?" I said, "No." He says, "Everyone's treating me like a prince." He says, "Everywhere I go, people want to fight me." 5 minutes later, I wanted to fight that guy.
Well, let me tell you why.
Right. So what you put out, you're going to get back. And I I'm not a believer in borders. I think that we're all human and we're all here for each other. And if we're not willing to support and give each other that compassion, then you're just going to create a horrible world.
Yeah, I can understand that for sure. Man alive. So you broke your back, like legit broke your back, because you couldn't handle picking up a box. But then we moved forward to a couple other things.
I mean, that sounds like a challenge right there, buddy. You couldn't handle picking up a box.
I'm just saying, I don't know. No, I mean, I've been horrific. I can't believe all the things you had done prior to that. And you're thinking, are you freaking serious? I've been doing this crazy stuff. And I pick up a box and twist and I break my back in half.
The interesting thing is it's now the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were able to take, that was my next point, is that was a major adversity, especially in your line of work, things you're doing, which is all about your entire body. And then you've been a student of it, you did so many different things. So what does that, moving forward now, you said that it has a lot to do with it, because same with me with cancer, I have a different viewpoint on life. I think about and look at things differently. I will say the longer you go after a traumatic experience, physical traumatic experience, like an illness or break a back or something like that, not talking about an unnatural trauma, but something like that happens when you can't handle a box or something. But the other thing would be is that it can easily, you get sucked back into the world so fast that you get complacent and forget about what you remember that you said you'd never forget. And I don't ever want to forget what cancer has done and or meant to me, positively and negatively, because I think there's a lot of things I said when at the high point of everything, when they said I was ready to die, that I said, if that's the case, then I need to do this, and I've got to do this, and I don't care about that stuff, I don't care about it anymore, and I've got to do this. There's certain things that become so important. Doesn't that mean they should always be important, right? So it's like there's some things we again, if you can never walk again because you just lost all abilities to do everything you do or what you thought you had to do, it seems like it could be the end of the ropes. So I'm sure you value life and walking and being able to do things. And
it's interesting. One of the things that was most obvious to me was I had to manage my fear. And because fear is the number one thing that stops us from doing anything in life. And so in my studies, I started looking at what fear was. And fear, when you actually break it down, I ask audiences all over the world, give me a definition of fear, and the room goes silent. And then somebody
don't pick on me, don't pick on me, don't pick on me.
Right. And then someone in the back of the room will go, false evidence appearing real. Right?
Yes.
They always say that, right?
Yeah.
But when you break fear down scientifically, that's not what it means. What it means is an emotional reaction to some future event that may or may not happen with you having a negative focus about the outcome. Mm-hmm. And so it's just negatively focused uncertainty. So
can you say that like a Southerner and slow it down a little bit? That'd be freaking awesome.
You really? Okay. Like a Southerner?
No, not that bad.
Fair.
It's a great line you said. I just want people to hear it again.
The whole thing? Okay.
Yeah.
Fear is an emotional reaction to some future event that may or may not happen with you focused on a negative outcome. Mm. Fear is simply negatively focused uncertainty. And because if you were focused on a positive outcome, you wouldn't be afraid. So it has to be based in the negative focus. And so if that's your key, then you have to realize, first of all, fear is not rooted in your present moment. So it's not here and now. Fear is something that's ahead of you, right? Two, fear, it elicits a natural primal response in your body. And that primal response shuts off the cognitive thinking brain and puts you into a survival mode. And when you ever watch National Geographic shows on TV?
Well, when I was a kid, I did because, I got to watch certain things that I wasn't allowed to see back then.
Right.
I get it. Yes, I did.
So you probably know that every one of those episodes had that poor doomed gazelle. Right?
Yes.
Right.
I always felt so horrible about that.
Right.
And the music was so awful, too. I was like, oh.
Right. And that gazelle's out there eating grass. It kind of was like, right? And then the lion hits the field. The first thing the gazelle does is go, gasp for air. And if you're a parent and you have kids and you've ever seen your kid almost fall, I can guarantee you that you have gone and gasped for air, because it's the natural primal response that your body does when you're in a fear state. Actors on Broadway are literally trained that if they forget their lines on stage out of fear, that they're literally trained to exhale and relax all their muscles
instead of inhale.
Right. And because when you're in a fear state, it's, most people think they can't breathe. It's not that they can't breathe, it's that their body is storing air. They can't put any more air in. Not that they can't get it in. It's already full. And so by exhaling and releasing, what happens to the actor, it shuts off the primal survival response and turns the cognitive thinking brain back on, and all their lines rush right back into their head. It's fascinating. So then I'm on the front lines of Iraq, and I say to the soldier, how can you go into a situation where you may get shot at or blown up, and how can you do that? The first thing he says, well, we all get together, and we go, okay, we're going to do this. And they exhale, and right?
Yeah.
And so they get resolved, and they release that fear, and they go, right? The other thing he said that was important was, he says, all right, we're going to do this, because he had an objective. He had something to focus on. So I'm kind of leading into my 5F system. I got fearlessly focused is what's happening right now, right? Now I can tell you from absolute experience that when you're standing on top of a 3-story tower looking down at a fall pad, you are not focusing on failing. You're not focusing on the tower. You're focusing on where the heck you're going to land, right?
Yes.
You're focused on that positive objective. And so that's really key. If you can get positively focused, the problem is people get focused negatively. People going through a tragic situation like my body or your cancer, they get focused on the negative outcome. And then what happens is they start seeing more and more negative, because the subconscious mind is a unique animal. It has 2 jobs. The first job is to store memories of your present moment to create an underlying subconscious belief. And the other job is to show you what you're focused on. So, like, I know if you've ever bought a car and you've gone chose what kind of car you wanted, before you went to the store to buy that car, I can pretty much guarantee you started seeing that kind of car everywhere.
Oh, yes. That's hilarious, right?
Yeah, right. For me, I'm a Jeep guy. I love Jeeps. I see every Jeep on the road. I got one in my garage right now. Right? And so you start seeing it because your subconscious mind shows you where you're focused. So the problem is people get focused negatively. Your subconscious mind is going to naturally show you negative, which is going to stack another negative present moment behind you, which is going to create a treadmill of negativity. And that's why negative people that you meet in your life will always be negative, because they always have something to be negatively focused on, because that's where their focus is.
John, what did a guy who's jumping off of buildings, broke his back, doing comedy, traveling around the world, what's a guy talking about neuroscience stuff and negativity and thought? What? How did that happen? I mean, really?
Yeah, really. Well, when you're lying in a hospital and your back is broken and they're telling you can't, and the only thing you really have is your thoughts in your brain, you start really diving into it. And that book, that Bruce Lee book I talked about, I mean, when you started breaking down everything he was talking about, what happened was it really showed me the pathway. My 5Fs, it's like fearlessly focused. The middle one's faith, belief. You have to believe it, right? And the interesting thing about the belief was I had to not take somebody else's belief. I had to take my own beliefs. Because everybody who's the doctors, my family, my friends, they all were telling me things out of the goodness of their heart. Or oh my God, I'm so sorry this is going on. You'll never be able to, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So what happened was, over the course of time, I started studying it. I started studying neurolinguistics. I started studying hypnosis. I started studying how the brain actually functions. And it's so fascinating because the subconscious and the conscious, it all comes down to one real big concept. And the concept is you only have one moment. There's only one moment that you can have thought, word, and deed and have it be active. And this thought, word, and deed is how you create your experience. Because even your future is not set. The future is just a place where you set goals for your next present moment that you're going to experience. So it all depends on being very present and making it in alignment with what you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
Does it make any
so
sense?
that's where things really started to shift for you in your life then.
Yeah.
And move in that different direction. How long did it take you to get out of the chair?
Oh, it was a journey. When I first told me I couldn't, and I decided that I was going to. It took me a good 30 days just to be able to flex my hips, to get below the injury. I started with the muscles in the upper neck and the back, and I slowly worked my ways down, flexing them. And then finally one day I flexed my hips, which meant I had mobility, which was huge. I had chiropractors adjusting my back and all kinds of things going on. And then by another month or two, I was able to get up and walk around. By a year, I was back to normal physicality, but not back to the strength that I was before. But at a year and 6 months, I was back to the strength I was before.
Wow,
and I gave
that's amazing.
Yeah, and I gave myself a gift. I literally did climb up on top of a 3-story tower and jump off into a fall pad.
Wow. Yeah, I bet you your friends were like, "Okay, John. Okay, we're rooting for you, friend. Okay, call the ambulance real fast."
Well, at that point, it was very interesting. At that point, they had seen what I'd gone through, and they'd seen what I'd done, and they'd saw
it was a big deal, big moment.
And they were right there because during that journey, they didn't believe I could until I did.
Yeah, and that's so freaking awesome.
I go back to what Schwarzenegger says. He says, when somebody tells me it can't be done, I get excited because I know I'm going to be the first. Right?
Yeah.
Right. I can take their belief or I can take my own. I'm a pretty spiritual person, and a guy that I think is pretty cool, a guy named Jesus. He actually said, "Whatever you ask in God's name is granted." And then Moses told us that God's name was I am. Well, I am is just your present moment belief. And so what we're putting in our present moment belief is creative. It's going to happen into our life. Right?
Yeah.
And then Buddha said, what you think you become, you create your world. And Gandhi said, you must be the change you want to see in the world. And Krishna said, you are the culmination of your thought. They're all the same thing. Your thought in this present moment is creative. And, if you put faith in that and belief that you can, then you can do anything. It's just when things come up that seem contrary to what you're trying to achieve, that you have to keep the faith.
Yeah.
You have to keep holding on. And I call that moment being flexible. So you got fearlessly focused with faith, follow through with flexibility. And those are the follow through is the other action. I had to do those moments of working my muscles. So by going through all those processes, fearlessly focusing with faith, follow through with flexibility, I was able to do everything in my life. And I went on from there. I directed theme parks. I was a college professor. I'm a keynote speaker now for over a decade. I'm still doing whips and nunchucks. I still do sword fights. Here locally, I direct plays and do fight choreography still today.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, everything I've ever wanted to do, I do now because of.
All right, I want to talk about whips and chains, right? Because that's a big deal. So let's do that in a second. I want to take a quick break, and we'll go check out one of our sponsors here. We'll come back and talk about some whips and chains because I think I remember a story about you and a lady on stage one time. We talked about it before. Maybe I'll set that one up. We'll come back to it. All right, so we're going to come back in just a moment. I want you to be able to hear about a really dear friend of mine, Danny Shannon in Australia, his company, Encapsulator.io. It's something where you can really engage with yourself in the future. All right, we're back again with my friend John Davis, the corporate action superhero. And I told you a little bit about Encapsulator.io. Go to that website and check it out. It's a very cool place. A lot of us that are a couple of years old used to do, I think they still do it, maybe. I don't know. I haven't heard about it in a while. But we used to do time vaults back when I was in school back in the 70s. And we would throw all kinds of mess in there that we thought was important to us of that time. And they would bury it underneath some statue somewhere, and it probably got tipped over by somebody these days. Who knows? But anyway, they'd dig that thing back up, and 20, 30 years later, they would look to see what little Matt and little Johnny put inside of a thing, and saw what we did back in 1972, right? It's really cool. So it's a similar concept with Encapsulator. It's a video time vault. You're able to do some things in moments in your life and then set the lock on the vault. and it locks it up. And you can't unlock it and can't watch it again until that time you set. So it's really neat what's happening with people using it in businesses, for teams, for future forecasting and goals. There are some psychologists that are using it for therapy right now. Danny, who is a recovering, he's actually recovered drug addict, and he works at a recovery center there where he recovered from, is able to use that there too with his folks. And it's just an absolutely amazing tool. So check it out, encapsulator.io. All right, so back to whips and chains. All right, so you're doing nunchucks and whips and all this kind of stuff. And looked at a couple of those pictures. You look a little different back then than you might do today. A little more gray there, a little stuff going on.
Definitely a little bit more gray.
A little more gray.
Earned every one of them, buddy.
I understand that. You sure did. And hey, I have an idea. Sorry, I should turn that off. So it was my Apple's connected to everything. So if my phone dings, everything dings. Ding-a-ling. So you do these whips and nunchucks and stuff because you've been doing this as part of your shtick and your things for years, and you incorporate that on stage. So was I right? There was a story I think you told before that I heard, but what's one of those stories that you've had with doing whips and nunchucks?
So when I do my main corporate action hero speech, my speeches are designed to empower the team to awaken their inner action hero and getting them over adversity, over their self-doubt, and getting them moving forward. That's what I do for a living now. And one of the things that I do, and it's the big culmination of the corporate action hero speech, is I walk out of my audience and I choose the most timid person I can find. It's usually a woman, and not to say women are in any way all timid. There's some people. I choose women because I'm less likely to get hurt in this scenario. And I'll tell you why in a second. So I bring that person to the stage, and I'll put them on stage, sometimes in front of thousands of people. So I've got the most timid person I can find, and I put them in front of thousands of people. So I've already created a situation where they're not enjoying that process very much.
Yeah.
So, but I'm looking at the situation from an empathetic point of view. So I know their fear is being in front of those people, and acceptance and love from those people. So the first thing I do is as I bring her to the stage, I say to her, hey, thank you so much for helping me. So I engage her purpose. By putting her into purpose of helping me, I've started negating her fear. Next thing I do is I turn to the audience and I say, isn't she a rock star? And they go crazy for her. So I've just said, no matter what you do on stage, these people are going to love you. So they've just negated their fears, right? So then what I do is I start talking to her about fishing. And as we talk about fishing, I say, today I'm going to teach you how to teach you how to catch a fish, how to cast a fishing rod. And she says, okay. So I pull out a bullwhip, and I hand her a bullwhip. And before she can think, I say, listen, it's just a fishing rod. Same motion. I can't bring a fishing rod on the airplane. This is the only thing I can bring on, which is, crazy in itself. So I hand her a fishing rod, and then before she can think about the fact that she has a whip in her hand, I get a whole section of the audience doing what I call the fish face. They take their hands and they go. I say, now all I want you to do is choose which fish you want to catch and cast your fishing rod. And she casts the fishing rod, and it cracks. The whip cracks. Yeah, and I said, well, that's cool. I said, catch another one. Pow! Now, we haven't once talked about whips yet. We're only talking about fishing. And so she's cracking the whip. So now she knows how to crack a whip. So I say to her, I said, listen, did you hear it crack? Yeah, I heard it crack. So you already know how to crack a whip. And she goes, well. I said, but did you hear it crack? You already know. She goes, yeah. I said, so during this process, what I'm doing is, did you hear it crack? So you already know how to make it crack. What I'm actually doing is this is a hypnotic wipe. It's something that we all do naturally. And that gesture is something like when somebody says to you, God, you look great today. You go, stop, right? That's the gesture that they give, right? But that in hypnosis, they call that a wipe. And what you're doing is you anchor them to the positive outcome. You wipe away the rest, and behind it, you give the positive reinforcement of the thing that you want them to do. So I went, did you hear it crack? So you already know how to make it crack. What I just did was I shifted her mindset from her timeline, actually, from not learning the skill to knowledge of the skill. So I just shortened the learning curve. Next thing I do is I then pull out a target, and I walk back and I hold it out in my hand. Now, what's her biggest fear?
Yes. Who's she going to hit now? What's she going to hit? I ain't hit that target.
Right. Hitting me is her biggest fear, right?
Yeah. You better get out the way, John.
Right. So I look at her and I said, listen to me. You already know how to make a crack. I promise you're not going to hurt me. Sometimes when you're leading somebody through something stressful, you got to lie to them. Okay.
You heard it here on Matt Chat Live.
If there's one
sometimes
thing
we're going through, just lie. Yeah. No, honey, that dress looks fantastic on you.
Oh, stop. How did you know? So by getting into that space of realizing as I'm leading her through this process, I have to meet her where she is. I can't expect her to be where I want her to be. So I got to meet her where she is. So I know her fear is hurting me, and if I can take hurting me off the table, then I've taken the fear away. The only way I will get hurt if she stays in fear, because I have to break her out of that fear cycle. So I say, I promise you're not going to hurt me, and I just nod and give her total positive, and she buys it, right? And then I hold it out there. I said, all I want you to do is just look where you want it to go and catch that fish. Just cast your fishing rod. And they go kapow, and they hit the target right out of my hand every time. I've done it hundreds and hundreds of times. Never been hit. Never been hit.
Gosh, imagine what I'm going to do when I get that whip.
Well, that's now here we go. This goes back to the beginning of this story.
Then the fear shifts to you. You're like, all right, Matt.
I never choose a man.
Because the women listen much better.
The one time I did, I almost had my ear taken out on the opposite side of my head.
Oh my Lord.
Men, you put a whip in their hand and the testosterone kicks in, and then it's just bad on stage.
I not listen to you anymore. I get target now.
A woman will go up there and she's very meticulous and methodical, and she'll get it done. A man gets up there and goes, rawhide! Right? It's very different. Very different experience.
No doubt. Amazing. So you just shared so many great little things that folks need to probably rewind and listen to when it comes down to leadership, comes down to life, when it comes down to our businesses, our careers. There's so many things there that are applicable. I don't want you to give away all the stuff because I want people to bring you in. But what are some of the ways you tie that? Yeah, what are some of the ways you tie that together with corporation business, personal development?
When I go into a company, the first thing I do is long before I come to the stage, I get on with their executive team and I find out what are the pitfalls, challenges, and goals of the event, because I'm going to tailor whatever I do to their event. And I want to make sure I'm hitting all the correct terminology and all the correct goals that they're trying to achieve. I'm also going to show up at that event a couple hours beforehand, and I'm going to watch everything that happens in that room before I go on stage, because a lot of times things will change on the fly, where somebody will say something funny that I can riff off later. So it really comes down to that. But by the time I get to the stage, I walk on that stage, and the first thing I do is I start with comedy. Because if I can get them laughing, I can get them to retain content. The other thing is, people say, you're using whips and nunchucks in a corporate environment? How does that work? Well, when most speakers will go up there and they'll turn on their PowerPoint. Well, science is now showing that when you turn on a PowerPoint, it literally is splitting the focus of the audience between the speaker and the screen, which shuts off the part of the brain for content retention, which is fascinating. That's why whenever the screen goes on, the phones come out, because they get focused somewhere else and shut that off. So what I do, the reason I use whips and nunchucks is because, number one, whips have a very explosive sound. It's actually a small sonic boom. That's what makes a whip crack.
Wow.
It's actually going over the speed of sound. But if I can anchor those sonic booms at the correct time, I'm now anchoring content into the subconscious mind. So 6 months down the road, when they're not acting upon the content I've delivered, all the boss has to say is, hey, remember what the whip guy said? And the second they say whip, that sound kicks them right back into the content.
Yeah, that's so good.
It's kind of a trick that way. Nunchucks, same thing. They all have I relate to everybody because everybody has hit themselves in the crotch with a pair of nunchucks. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so they all know what that is. But once I start talking about the idea that they're two rigid objects that work together because of the flexibility in between, right now I've created a whole new experience for them, and then I turn that into a micromanaging statement. You can't micromanage every moment. Sometimes you've got to just let go of the stick and let the chain in between do the work.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting. So I tie in all the pieces and parts. I talk about fearlessness. I bring a person on stage. The first thing I do when I talk about fearlessness, I bring a person on stage and I crack targets out of their hand. And that whole piece is about how we create a positive work culture. And how, because I started with jokes and because I was making jokes all the way out, and I was very clear and effective in my communication about bringing a person on stage, anybody in the room would have gotten up. And when I finally get that person to come on stage, I go to him and I say, "What's your name?" They go, "Bob," and I start clapping and I walk away. And he follows me, right? And then afterwards, I said, "Why'd you come up here?" He says, "Because you asked me." I said, "Did I ask you?" And I turned to, "Did I ask him?" And I let them realize that I didn't ask him, I didn't tell him, I just started clapping and walked away. And because I created the positive atmosphere first. So that's how I tie all the crazy whips and nunchucks in. The whole key is if you can bring a total good time to a room, that keeps their attention better than anything else.
Yeah.
And when you anchor that with really good content, really good material, then it gets retained even better. And I never, ever, ever use a PowerPoint in my presentation because of that.
No, that's even nicer because I understand about the whole checkout part there. It's pretty easy. Speaking of content, I want to bring this up here in just a second. Here it comes. Maybe now it's there. I got to come back to the screen to see. Yes, it is. All right. So you have been so generous here for folks that you've got a book you've put together and a free gift that you're offering to folks that are listening or watching today. If you happen to be listening on podcast today, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe and like and tell everybody about it. Make some reviews, right? And John's got some stuff out there too. You got to find him out there, Corporate Action Hero. His information will come up later when we tag that after the show. But you have some things available at Corporate Action Hero, all one word, corporateactionhero.com/gift.html. So if they go to that little secret page, corporateactionhero.com/gift.html, Bammo, we're looking together now on video at some of the screen that you have here. And you've got this 5F workbook. That's some of the things you were talking about just a few moments ago. Yep. And you're able to give this book right here.
And let me tell your audience, you notice on the top of that page, it says free. There's not a place on this entire page that takes your email address or asks you to buy anything.
Looky there, folks.
Right? That is just content.
That's the bottom of the page. You don't even have a menu legend at the bottom.
Nope. This is all about, that page is for you guys. And
straight up.
That book, that 5F workbook is how to go through your own 5F process. Those videos talk about the individual 5Fs below, and then it also has one about the big primer of the 5Fs, as it were.
Awesome. Yeah. So these videos right here, these resources, how to overcome fear, how to get focused, how to develop self-confidence. Now is not the time to lose something, whatever the T would be, because we lost the T. It's not big enough. And then flexibility is a factor, right? 5 keys to overcoming pandemic fear. Isn't that special? Well, isn't that special? Who taught you how to do that one? COVID?
COVID. Thank you, church lady. That's awesome.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Was it COVID?
Was it COVID?
That's funny.
Yeah, so you made a great opportunity for folks to come here. And like you said, it's totally free. It's not a lead magnet where you get their email and put them on a list. It's straight up. Here's the book. Here's some videos and resources. Obviously, if folks want to get a hold of you, it's pretty easy to find out how to do that on the site. You can. But for today's purposes, you're just simply here to give them something of value that really centers around all the things we've been talking about, which is such a blessing. Thanks for that, John.
You're welcome. And to me, I think that if they really want me, then they can come to my website and find me. I don't think I need to push myself down their throat.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that I know that when I go to a lead magnet page, I click away instantly. Because I'm like, I have too much coming into my email box right now. I don't want to go there. And I
understand that.
I tell clients all the time that if you're gonna collect the names at least introduce yourself with the video first. Because
something. Make it a little more personal, would you? I'm down with that. Right,
Yeah.
down with it. Good grief.
Sales is relationships, always has been.
Oh yeah, and you're doing that all together now. And do you have some things coming up at this year, towards the end of the year? Some gigs going on, or what's going on?
I will tell you, and I just want to tell your audience this because it's really important. COVID has been a crazy time for the speaking industry. When it happened, it was kind of like the Marvel blimp. Half the speakers went away and all the work, but right now, because we're coming out of it, people are booking, and they're booking live events like crazy right now because everyone knows they're going back to work. Everyone's going, and businesses right now are saying, well, we need to motivate. We need to get these people out of that of adversity they've been through for a year and a half and put them back on the pathway to achieving quickly. And so I've been getting bookings like crazy. I even actually, because of that, I created an all-day event with another speaker, Tamara Zoner. She's known as the Happiness Coach. And we do a full day of inspiration, motivation, and rejuvenation. And it's just an awesome. That can be found on my speaking page on the website as well.
Okay, that's fantastic. Well, it's been we have fun every time we talk, and I'm glad we do because I want people to get the chance to know you, the guy John, but at the same time, you threw out so many great nuggets there that anybody watching that has a business, corporation, event, clinics, workshops, and you name it. John is more than capable and able. Over 4,000 shows, jumping off of things and hitting stuff and punching things and whipping things. I mean, whip it. Yeah, it's you.
Hey, you want to hear something cool? I actually live in Akron. Cleveland's just north of me. I actually went up for a live event at the Rock Hall of Fame and was the guy cracking the whip during Whip It being played. Thank you very much.
That's awesome. You go, Devo. Yeah, that's amazing. For all you young people out there today, Devo was a 70s punk band that wore red rubber suits with really crazy hats and said,
hubcaps on their head, kind of thing.
Yeah, hubcaps. They were some weirdos, buddy. But they sold records, and you got to whip a whip. So there you go. Yeah. Well, John, it's been an absolute blessing to have you back again. Folks, there's the website at the bottom, corporateactionhero.com. Again, if you're listening, corporateactionhero.com. And somebody says hello to us today, Catherine from Connecticut, not too far from you there, a little bit to your right, your east.
Yes, exactly to my right, exactly.
Yeah, that's to your right. Yeah. Well, thanks, Catherine, for checking in. I hope you got a chance to listen to some of this stuff earlier. It was pretty fun and some really, really great stuff. So, John, if we're getting ready to head out here in a second, so we've got a lot of folks that are listening from all kinds of walks of life, and we've got people from around the world that tune into Matt Chat Live. Thank the Lord for that. And there's a lot of different things happening in a lot of different places. But the one thing I have found from my international relationships is a lot of people are just having a difficult time getting through certain things. Not everything sometimes. Some people everything, but some people just certain things. Jobs are hard to come by. People have had to make big shifts in their careers. Some folks are blessed to have kept the same stuff. There's lots of different things happening there. I've known some people that have hit the gold mine during COVID. I met a few people that have actually made tons of money. It's amazing what you can do and how you can do things. Anyway, all those different folks are listening today with all the things you've been through, laying in that hospital bed as well. And then being the guy who's jumping off of a building 2 years later, which is amazing. What's one thing you could leave us with today that folks should be focused on here this year?
Remember that today's choices are tomorrow's outcomes, and the giant thing that you are trying to achieve is never going to magically appear in your present moment. That thing is coming to you. You don't have to get to it, and it all depends on you taking small moments and making them successful. Once you make those small moments positive and successful and in alignment with your goal and just keep stacking them, it's going to come and it's going to surround your experience. Don't get lost in the fear. Just exhale and go back to being successful in this moment.
So good. Thank you so much, John. I appreciate that. And folks, don't forget, coming up in a little bit over an hour and 5 minutes from now, I'll be on my next show. Maybe if I'm breathing by then, we probably will be, because we're gonna have some good time. Gonna have some good times. It's gonna be Let's Get Naked.
That'll be dynamite.
That'll be dynamite. For those of you that are not young or old, and you might remember Jimmy Walker, but that's enough of a story. Anyway, Let's Get Naked tonight. We're talking about when the walls come crumbling down, and they do. They will, and they will come down again. And there's a lot of things we go through during those moments, and many people react or act differently. And we're going to discuss what some of those things look like tonight. And if you are experiencing something now that you're like, man, I just don't even want to tell anybody about this, or you're embarrassed to say because you shouldn't be a person that people would think would be experiencing this type of thing that you're going to talk about, that's what the room's for. We purposely don't have a massive room there. We try to keep it manageable, and everybody gets a chance to talk. And it's a safe place for you to come and shed the veneer and to release fear and doubt. That exhale, right? To be able to exhale. When you exhale all that stuff, you inhale greatness, you inhale good, you inhale things that are going to bring life to you, right? Exhale. You don't want to breathe the stuff you exhale. It's carbon dioxide, right? You'll die if you breathe that stuff. When you're breathing in, you're breathing life. So we want people to have a chance to do that. And that's what we do every Wednesday night. Yeah, the name's funny. Let's Get Naked. And that's why I'm a funny marketing guy. But I want you to be able to come and do exactly that. And I hope you will tonight, because it's going to be a fantastic topic. And I am super, super blessed to have some of the best moderators in the world jumping on there from the UK. One of my good friends in the UK. For him, it's midnight when we start, and he's on from midnight to sometimes 2-3 o'clock in the morning with our show. And he's there all the time because it's just that good, folks. It's really, really amazing. And I hope you'll come tonight, because it's probably going to be for you. So that's on Clubhouse. If you don't have access to Clubhouse, you need an account, hit me up. I'll hook you up. I have lots of access to Clubhouse, and I have some special treats to give out. So just message me, and we'll do that before the show starts tonight. All right. So John, thanks again so much for hanging out with me today. And we got to do, it was still, I think this was still as much energy, as much fun. We got the same point across as we did for the one that is in space somewhere. where it's at. Somebody on Mars is loving that episode. But
so much
for
fun,
us,
Matt. I wanted to say one last thing. If anybody's looking for just a little bit of daily motivation, find me on YouTube. I put out a daily video, a couple minutes long, just to give daily motivation. Check it out, Corporate Action Hero on YouTube.
Oh, that's great. So they can just put Corporate Action Hero in the search bar, and it should pop right up, huh?
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. All right, everybody. Don't forget, Wednesdays, 5 p.m. Eastern here in the United States. That would be 3 p.m., 2 p.m. in Pacific. And that is 7 a.m. for my friends in Australia in the future on Thursday. And Let's Get Naked, 7 p.m., of course, Eastern, I just said, which is 9 a.m. for my friends in Australia, which we've got a couple that are joining us as mods today. So super excited to have you there. Don't forget, anytime you might be in a place that seems like it's going to be impossible, could be dark, could be ugly. Trust me, I know it. So does John. There's always going to be a hope revealed. We'll see you the next time. Thanks, folks.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode here on the Hope Revealed Podcast Network. If you'd like to find out more information about this episode, or learning more about Matt's coaching or consulting services, resources, or booking information he has available, please visit mattcrump.tv. And thank you again for tuning in. And remember, in any dark place or any uncertain moment, right around the corner, there can always be a hope revealed.